Hey guys, Mike Gaddy here with Real Estate on Record. We also have Steve Zolinardo here on Zoom on the other end of the border. Steve, how's it going, buddy?
Everything's well, buddy. Yeah, couldn't make it in this month. We're actually flying out. It is what it is. So we'll get a zoom in because a lot of stuff going on in the market. We definitely want to talk about, right?
Exactly, exactly. I think the biggest thing that's coming sooner than later, a 23% increase in our beautiful carbon tax, bringing what is it? I guess $50 a ton to $80 a ton for our beautiful. Now they've curved it. It's not called carbon tax. It's called carbon incentive. So we're actually trying to play and do a play on words. But yeah, how do you think it's gonna hit our pockets?
I kind of went through that. It's just nonstop. Like it's continuous in your pocket taking money. And that's just again, we don't have any more to give. Like you talk to normal families, like forget about the elite people in their bubble. Like we don't know those people. Let's forget, even if they're rich people in our neck of the woods, we don't know the elite, the people that are in a bubble that nothing affects them. Like the general people that we know day to day is like they're all being affected. Everyone's struggling. I've never seen so many people struggle before. If it's family members, if it's friends, if it's clients, everyone's unhappy and it's this whole thing. And if you ever played Sim City as a kid, like I used to love playing those games, it was like the happy factors. Like, okay, people are put a park in place, put some entertainment, more money or whatever it is, and then ultimately like the happy factor comes back and the city is thriving. Right now, Canada's not thriving. It looks like everyone you kind of talk to is just unhappy. If it's the now everyone's focusing on the weather and climate change, and then it's um, and then it's always the shortage of funds, right? So yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, no, it's sad because as soon as we got the new mayor in Toronto, we got hit with a 10.5% increase in property tax, and now what is it? 4 months later, you're getting basically hit almost with another 23% increase in carbon tax. It's just what can we tax us next
But
on?
okay, so did you guys actually hear about what actually just happened yesterday? That
With the
Olivia,
rain tax?
yeah,
Okay, so they're trying to tax you now. The next tax, I didn't look too far into it. I read like literally a few lines of it and had to shut it down. So basically, uh, I think was it Olivia Chow?
yeah.
So
It was Olivia Chow who said that if you have a bigger home and you're wasting more water, you'll be taxed more.
yeah, so you'll be taxed according to like it'll be based on the property size that you have. Yeah, it's ridiculous, but
There's guys, I was been saying this for a while. This is even before. Again, I don't care if you're left or right. We have to call what's happening. It's the current administration. It's caused a disaster for Canada. I don't, like I have no feelings for both parties. Let's just say, but it's this party has been a disaster for Canada. And I've always saying it like so. I was talking earlier before this. If we're Trudeau's from is Quebec. Have you ever been to Quebec? It was always stagnant growth. It felt like Europe, you know what I mean? Everything, property values stayed the same. It just felt like stagnant. And that guy gets into power, brings that politics into all of Canada, and created all of Canada that way right now. Like we
So
have
let me
the
let me
most
say something, Steve.
resources in the world currently. Like
Steve, let me tell you what this is called. This is called the rain tax, implemented by the new Toronto mayor, Olivia Chow, that she wants to put it in effect in April. And what this is, it's going to affect primarily the Toronto residents to impose a tax on residents on the amount of water that they discharge from their houses into the sewer. This could be via the square footage or their environmental studies if it is drainage like focused. If they have increased the drainage or if they've decreased their drainage, they will be taxed accordingly. So it will be dubbed as the rain tax that could go as high as 40%.
yeah, I get it. So, but going back to that strategy because she's obviously on the left side. My clients were from Greece originally, from Athens. I remember them telling me, and it's again, everything is out there in the world, just at least by history. And they looked at it; it was the same idea. So you had luxury tax if you had a pool, if you had a car. That's why in Europe, if you see all the Mercedes, the Ferrari, whatever it is, like expensive cars, it's not a 3 liter; it's a 2.999 liter because anything over a 3 liter is an additional tax. So they like Europe's been taxing the shit out of their whatever patrons forever. And that's overlapping into Canada. The only difference is Canada is still very undeveloped. Those are very old countries. You know what I mean? So we're basically failing a lot earlier. We never had an opportunity to kind of have like a really big spurt, and maybe we little spurt we have, but not great. It's never going to be a real great country in the world, let's say economics. It's done. I think even now, like with all the natural resources we have, they could be making a killing with the oil and the natural gas and stuff like that to bring Canada up on the world scale. And these guys are worried about stuff that we shouldn't be worried about because Canada doesn't pollute like China, India, and stuff like that, like those big countries. Our carbon footprint doesn't even make sense to them, and we're getting taxed to hell. And then you get China building a coal factory every two to 3 days. They're building a new one. So what are we going to do as Canada to kind of help the climate change? We got nothing. We're not doing anything to even if we don't.
We're not even gonna make a dent in it.
Well, Steve, should we go nuclear?
What's that?
Should we go nuclear?
Yeah, we should. Suppose, we always thought of nuclear as this very dangerous way of generating power, but supposedly now the new technology, it's a lot safer, clearly. And number two, it doesn't emit any emissions at all. It's the best way to fuel. Solar panel, potentially, yeah, we need a lot of land for it. Canada doesn't have the sun for it, let's face it. What do you call it there? Those windmills, useless, never did anything. That's more of a scam to kind of run money through the government into these private organizations. So what are you left with, right? Like, I don't know. Yeah, nuclear would be the best bet, but no one's talking about it. Everyone's talking about the climate change. I mean, guys, I don't know. Like,
Do you think, Steve, do you think that they should continue on with the pipeline, the oil pipeline?
what's that?
Do you think that the new government should start to bring on that new oil pipeline from Canada to the U.S.? Because remember, that got shut down.
It's not. You got to stop this nonsense with this. You got the resources. You got to sell it. You got to make money for the country. So you got to do it. Like people, it's a commodity that's traded. You know what I mean? If Saudi Arabia, how do you think they built all those new tech cities? They did it what, selling sand or selling oil? What did they do, right? So you got countries that are taking advantage of their resources and then building a whole like state of the art, looks futuristic, like a Disneyland rather. And then we're trying to tax the people that live here already on water wastage. It's really dumb, right? It's in reverse. The country's in reverse right now.
Well, we're gonna switch gears. We're gonna make this episode all about hot real estate trends, and this is not exactly hot news, but it is technically hot news for us over here. Steve, let's start with you. Currently, you're in Florida. We are in Ontario. What kind of tax situation is happening there? You know what's happening on our end. What's happening on your end?
Regarding taxation?
Taxation, any new tax laws coming into effect? Very similar to what's happening here. Do you guys have anything happening on that end?
No, it's different here, honestly. Again, how America is run is a lot different than, let's say, Canada, because it's like federally in Canada, it brings it to the provinces, and provinces follow federal, right? Federal laws and stuff like that. Here in America, like 50 states, and everyone's governed differently. So Florida will be governed differently than New York, stuff like that. So we're basically taking control. So this is obviously a different approach to life here. It's similar to how, every bill that gets passed is something that I kind of like, I approve, honestly. This is all just normal living, right? So no, they don't want to tax they're not taxing the citizens here. We don't have state income tax, right? We still have some of the lowest fuel costs in all of America. Like we're at $3.50 a gallon. If you get to like California, it's like at $5 a gallon. New York is probably in the 450s, right? And we're still quite low. Like today, this is actually high because when we in January it was like $2.99 a gallon, but there's a little bit of an issue now. But that's
so. What about for you, Mike? Now you've obviously expressed how the taxes here are gonna hurt us. What is their long-term progress to raising their taxes as high as they're going to be? Why do you think they're actually doing this?
We can't spend. They don't know how to spend money properly. The way we spend money is like it's water. Just throw it out there, right? So obviously putting the right people in place to control our spending and balance our deficit that they keep talking about balancing, it's not going to happen with these guys.
But it's not going down.
No,
They're trying to balance
it's getting
something,
worse.
but yeah.
It's getting worse. And the more money that we throw into it, it's not going to put the fire out.
And now this actually has to bounce back to Steve. Steve, even though you say that Florida or United States as a whole is different, they're also, what is it, $18 trillion in debt?
More than that. I think it's like 30.
Do you think this is one of those holes that is near impossible to ever get out of?
Yeah, for sure.
For sure?
Yeah, and I can't get out of that. And it's government, right? Government's just, it's sloppy. State of Florida, we're in a surplus of 21 billion last year. I don't know if this year it's even more. So we have a surplus of 21 billion in the state of Florida. Imagine we were in the positives. We're in the green. You look at your bank account, there's $21 billion in there.
How
So
many
that means
are in the positive?
Yeah.
it's,
That-
yeah. So that means that it's governed properly, right? You got, even if you look at America in general, like remember, like the Northeast, when you get up to Illinois, Chicago, New York, Jersey, Maryland, Boston, Maine, like all that whole section, that was the wealth hub of America always, right? As of last year, the first time in American history that America South, which is made up of 6 states, Texas, Florida, Georgia, there's a bunch of like South Carolina, North Carolina, it's the first time in American history that it's got a higher GDP value than the Northeast.
Wow.
It goes to tell you, like, everyone's moving south. And again, not to get too political, but it's based on politics, based how those Democratic states ran their cities the last 4 to 5 years during COVID and destroyed everything, small businesses and the whole thing. And then you had, like these Republican states that stayed, saw what was going on, made a decision like a government should, and then moved on, and everything flowed quite well. So that's a difference, buddy.
So now I got to jump into this, guys. We're almost 20 minutes into this episode already. And I will say this, Steve, now that there's such a huge talk of interest rates over here, in Florida, not so much, in the US, not so much, because you can go on a 30-year, fixed interest rate and call it a day, never worry again. But for the people who are living here and are now prepared for, they say, what, June, it's going to drop a quarter point?
That's what the talks are.
So does this mean that the economy is going to just go in full swing the second it drops? Do you guys predict that? And if so, what can buyers or sellers be prepared for?
I think here, once rates start dropping, buyers are going to go crazy, especially if you're a first-time home buyer. Like, the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be. We're already into multiples on, I would say, like 50% of our buys and sells, so at least. Yeah, so I think it's going to continue to trend in an upward trend. And a lot of it goes back to supply and demand, right? Going back to, we're supposed to have, we're projected to have 80,000 new housing starts this year. We've upped that to 88, but our goal we need this year is 125,000 new builds, which in Ontario, which we're not going to get. And on top of that, we brought in over 1 million people last year. So where are these people going to live? Right. So once that money gets to become affordable, yeah, it's gonna be a race to go show your client the house and throw in your offer again.
So it'll go back to being a seller's market.
No, a seller's market, yeah, but
not buyers,
not right
right?
away, not with a quarter point drop, but
The only difference here is that there's so many more programs in America rather than Canada. They even so you're seeing now people that are held in 30-year rates because you get a 30-year mortgage. Let's say 3 years ago, 4 years ago, if it was 2%, 3% rate, whatever it was, you held that rate for 30 years. You got a 30-year, for 3% for 30 years. It's amazing, right? You can break that loan, pay a very small penalty, like a $500 administrative fee, then get into a lower rate if it was at that point. But what's happening here now is the people that have low rates are not putting their house on the market right now. So like the resale market's pretty stagnant in a sense, even though we have high inventory here in Bonita currently right now. I think we're 5 to 6 months of inventory. Estero, Naples, Fort Myers, Cape Coral, like that whole section. But a lot of the resales, let's say in traditional areas, they're not selling. So a lot of the rush is coming into new construction because no one's selling the resales. And with the new construction right now is that builders, again, talking about the programs here, builders are buying down the loans. So you can get into, let's say, Lennar, largest builder in America. they have these what they call quick move-ins, so they'll just start building houses. And if there's no buyer attached to it, they don't give a shit. They got to finish streets at a time, right? They don't want to go back, so they'll just finish streets at a time. As people are buying, they're building at the same time, so they call them spec houses. And prior to like completion, let's say 1 to 3 months out, they don't want to own these properties. They want to have these things sold, so they'll give you heavy incentives to close them. Plus, they're going to give you a bought down rate, so you can probably get an adjustable rate mortgage through them because they have their own mortgage company for like 4.5%, which is great.
Wow. How does that help this affect the supply though too? Because you have a lot of people that don't want to move because, like we were talking, like they're retiring in place, right? Just because
Yeah.
their rates are so high. Is that affecting supply?
Um, I don't know, man, because the resale's a little slow, to be honest. Like if you, I have a few listings, they're a little slow. That actually, I'm getting like 4 or 5 showings. I can't say it's totally slow, but I find like the new construction's on fire, right?
Well, I
Everyone's
guess
just going.
because there's that incentive, right? Because how do you compete the 4.5% rate versus like what, a 6.5, 7%, right?
Yeah, that and plus also they're blowing them out. Like these builders, they want to keep going, right? I mean, they're so big. They're not like how Toronto builders are, even though they're billion-dollar companies, but they're family owned. These guys are publicly traded on the stock market, so they have quotas. This is a proper Fortune 500 company where it's like if you don't perform, you're out. We will replace you with somebody else. So these guys are they have every division has a sales manager that runs, make sure that they're running whatever 20, 30 sales a month per division, right? And that could be just a small, maybe 3 sites in North Fort Myers. The next guy's got maybe 2 or 3 sites in Estero, and these guys got to pump numbers, right?
And that's the difference, I guess, here, right? Because here, like we saw, and we're seeing it firsthand, builders 18 months ago stopped selling houses, and what they did was they like a lot of them are building as much volume, right? Which those guys are still going full force. So we're gonna see the lag here.
They're so big, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, again, prices dipped here also. I was talking to a client just recently, and he's like, well, how much, at the height of the market, let's say my little Venice in North Fort Myers was like 440, 450 when, and I bought it for 380. So it went up 70 grand since I bought it, but then it dipped back down to like 410, 415 now or something like that. If you look at it, it's only like a 5 to 7% drop. I said, but remember, I go, this is when the transition of the interest rates happened. Both sides of the border were
Mhm.
both affected. I said, when we sold our primary residence in Toronto, that thing went down like $400,000 to $500,000. You know what I'm saying? That's like a 30% drop off. So 5 to 8% versus 30%, you shouldn't be too worried about that. And that's and the builder now, like they're even like when we bought our house, we were probably up about 300 grand, I would say, because just based on the past sales, I think we're still up about 100 now, which I don't care. It's a primary residence. It's something we're going to live in for the next 10 years. So I'm cool with it. But a lot of the houses are probably down about 50 to $80,000. The builder pricing, they drop down. And also incentives on closing. So it is a good time to buy. Like I hate to say that it sounds like a sales pitch, but ultimately we know what this area is. This is going to be unaffordable in the future. I've been, calling this for 2 years, and it's hit that point where it's like I get clients calling. It's like I want to be on the ocean and live in. They think they're going to be in a balcony overlooking the Gulf Coast for $300,000. You're going to be in a trailer. There's nothing for 300 grand, right?
It used to be though, right? 5 years ago, you could have found one, right?
Yeah, and that's Florida past. Florida
Past.
present is a different story. Remember what I said, America South, where GDP value is more than the Northeast. It's a different beast in today's market. As
But
much
now,
as
Steve, before we
people,
close up this episode, let's explain to people what is the number one difference between the East Coast and the West Coast of Florida.
what's the difference between the East and West?
Yeah, in regards to investments and where the huge change in pricing happened.
So East Coast is very, very in your face, flashy, party. It's a different scene, right? It's like Vegas with sun, or Vegas like with the beach rather. The West Coast is a different feel, right? I've abbreviated to lush, luxury, and private. That's exactly what it is. We have the highest concentration of billionaires in America that live here, or have a second house here at least. So it's here, the wealth, but it's not in your face. It's very like private. No one's I don't know. If I was a celebrity and I would live here, to be honest. Everything is clean, no
Isn't it also the
graffiti.
safest
What's that?
safest place in America? Like
Safest
where you
place,
are?
yeah, yeah. No, number one
In,
and three.
in
So
America.
In America,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Collier County is number one, and Lee County is number three, is safest place in America. That's last year's statistics. So, it's a different thing. For investment, I mean, on the East Coast, there's a lot more condominiums if you're into that, but I never see the value in that. I know people always they get into these condo deals, and I don't know. I don't see the value in it, to be honest. I think you
So
get a
so
lot to
Steve,
deal with,
so
contend with
Steve,
with
Steve,
other
the pull away,
What's that?
the pull away from everyone that's so this is going to go into our next episode, but the pull away, if someone wants to spend 500,000 in Fort Lauderdale and 500,000 in Fort Myers, where's the best bang coming if they want to do that?
I think so. You're in Fort Lauderdale, you're going to be in a condo for that money, and then West Coast, you're going to be in a house in a gated community with amenities, and you're going to have a nice, like, calming life, right? The hustle is still here. Don't kid yourself. But it's not like that side. It's different. It's more metropolitan compared to here. Um, I don't know. It's just a way different flow, buddy. I can't explain it. It's like if you've ever been to Italy. Have you ever been to Italy, Steph?
Many, many times.
Okay, so you've been to the north, like Treviso, where we're from?
North, south, everywhere.
Okay, so if you ever been to Treviso, you can drive through there. It's like it's controlled chaos, right? The roads flow very nice, it's very organized. And then you get to Rome, and it's a
It's
disaster.
Well,
But
it's
And then you get to the south and everything's dirt roads.
yeah, and then it's all cobblestones and dirt. Yeah.
But it's just that's the same feel. Like when you're driving into. I remember when I went on my honeymoon, we drove and we're through Rome and Naples and everything. It's chaotic. And then I got to Treviso. It was like, it's fast flowing, very fast flowing, but very organized. The whole thing. It feels the same way as that, like being up in the north of Italy compared to, like, let's say central or south. That's the feel for me, anyways. And this is what I've kind of even did these little videos here regarding, why you should choose the West Coast rather than the East Coast. And again, the West Coast is not for everybody because we don't have, like, we still have like a small party scene here if you want to go to clubs at night, but it's not like the East Coast. East Coast is like you want to go to South Beach or in Miami and party. Like, I mean, that's where you want to go, right? But how many times do you really want to do that? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, we have great restaurants. We still have like a little party scene if you want to get involved with that.
Well,
We're
this is going to be in the
Gulf of
next
Mexico,
episode, Steve.
so the best beaches and subtropic weather. It's literally, if you look at our forests, but it's like you're living in Costa Rica here. You know what I mean? It's a whole different feel compared to the other sides. And plus storms. If you look at the storms, the Atlantic is a very rough ocean. It's unusable a lot of the time of the year. It's the undertow, the waves, the whole thing there, and the storms always flow from Atlantic over. The Gulf Coast is steady Eddie, right? It's very, very, very smooth, white beach sands and less storms.
Beautiful. Sign me up.
Let's go, Michael.
All right. I think we're going to wrap this one up, sir. So what do you want me to say?
So as always, Michael, where can they find us if they want to know more about the boys of Real Estate on Record?
They can find us on Spotify, YouTube. You can find me at Mike Gaddy Realtor. And Steve, where can they find you?
Exact same place as you just said, and then just Instagram, right? But it's all good. You know where to find us.
We'll see you the next time.
Ciao.
All right, Steve.